and welcome to today's episode of Piano TV, which is all about if you're an ear player. Either this is going to be some kind of revelation for you where you will realize, oh, I'm an ear player and I had no idea. Or this is going to be just reaffirming a bunch of stuff you already probably knew about yourself. Or you're going to see all this and think, oh, this maybe except for one or two things, I don't really have any of these problems at all. In which case, you might be a sight player, and we're going to talk about that one in the next video. All right, so let's get this started. Number one, you might be an ear player if you can play this. But you struggle to read something like this. So why is this a problem? Because it's pretty satisfying to be able to play something fancy and complex without wading through the challenging sight reading projects of beginner music. The reason I think this is a problem for most people is that there's a level of complexity in which most people can't actually figure it out by ear. A lot of people who have pretty decent ears can approximate chords and do, contemporary stuff within maybe that kind of intermediate range. But if you were ever to try to play Chopin by ear, something that's a lot more layered, where there's a lot more notes, nuance, and details, and little two-note slurs and articulation things where every single note there's a whole new stack of problems, you're not really going to be able to do this by ear unless you're among the absolute top percentile of musicians, which, I mean, maybe you are, but the odds are a little more that you're an average mortal like the rest of us. This method also takes too long. It's a more time-consuming process to learn a really difficult piece by ear if you can't actually read the sheet. It's inefficient, and we're going to get to that in some of the other points in today's video too. So what's the fix to this particular problem? Well, there's two things you can do. Number one, learn easier pieces, because you aren't gonna be able to maximize your ability to sight read and get better at sight reading by starting pedal to the metal hardest sight reading projects there are possible. You're gonna want to read way below your playing level so that you can, start to get your skills a little bit more on the same plane of existence. Another thing that you can do is 5 minutes a day sight reading practice. I have all my students do this in my complete piano path classes. I assign a 5-minute per day sight reading excerpt. It's usually 4 measures. Depending on how I'm feeling that week, it's either going to be a level or 2 below where they're at in terms of sight reading capability. So if you're a grade 3 student, then your sight reading is probably mostly going to be around a grade 1 level. If you're reading at a grade 3 level, that's the important asterisk. Or sometimes I throw in harder sight reading exercises just for fun, but it's always going to be in that sort of 4-ish measure range. You play it through maybe 2, at most 3 times, not enough that you start learning it by ear, but enough that you actually have to fight through the reading of that. And if you do that every day for 5 minutes, different piece every time, you're gonna see a lot of progress. The second sign that you might be an ear player is a tendency to do a little bit of what I like to call like a practice zigzag. All right, this is the zigzag. Notice I play till I made a mistake, and then I fix it and do it really fast. Building it note by note, getting it up to speed immediately. Oh, wrong note. So now I have to start all the way back at the beginning. Wrong note, gotta go all the way back to the beginning, note by note. This is a brute force method. Very laborious. All right, so why is this practice zigzag a problem? Well, it's really inefficient. It's kind of like what we were talking about with point number 1. When you're learning note by brute force, putting it together one little piece at a time, it just is sort of like, it feels like chipping a boulder, or like using a fork to scrape off rock from a boulder, where, I don't know, maybe you could use an anvil or something. I'm not in the practice of boulder chipping, but there's a more efficient way, and that efficient way, and this is the fix of the problem, is to, and this is going to be the mantra, really important, this is going to come up again in the same video, but work on a very small segment, start to finish of the measure, so 1 to 2 measures, and you do it back to back. So I'll show you what that looks like. So this is a demo of how I would go through learning it. I'm going through the hands separate. So I'm doing the left hand first, and then I'm going through the right hand reading really slowly, keeping my eyes on the sheet, focusing on accuracy and counting. Now I feel pretty good about both parts. I put it together right away, and I'm doing it extremely slow. So slow that I can't actually keep track of the tempo unless I'm counting. I can't rely on my ear. So I just did that measure, just a single measure, and now I'm doing it again. Oh, and I made a mistake. So what I realized there, okay, it wasn't good enough. I got to go slower. Even though I was already going really slower. Notice I've slowed it down about 15 beats to make sure it's even and I can read through it while scrolling my eyes on the sheet. That went well. I'm going to do it one more time. Slightly faster back to the speed I was at originally, and it's coming together now. The third sign that you might be a ear player is if you sing a lot and people have positive feedback for you. You can maybe even carry a pitch, or maybe you're adept at another instrument. And what's the problem here? There's no problem. Keep doing what you're doing. It's just a nice little thumbs up for you if you're already a musician of some sort. You're probably already practicing these skills that we're talking about in today's video. You're much more likely to be an ear player if you have some kind of musical background. And there's no fix because there's no problem. Keep doing what you're doing. The thing that being a musician already, doing a lot of singing or doing a lot of guitar playing or something, is that it helps develop your intuition. And intuition is basically your sense of what notes follow other notes, what chords tend to follow other chords, the sounds, the directions, what a third sounds like, what a second sounds like, what a minor chord sounds like. All of these things become more intuitive the more you play music. So this will raise your chances of being an ear player, but it's really quite a positive thing. Number 4, you memorize very easily. Now, this is not a problem on its face. There's a sort of accidental memorization that happens when you, some people just seem to have this knack, right? They sit down and play a piece a few times and maybe they're working on it bit by bit throughout the week, and by the end of the week, they've pretty much memorized it, or need to spend very little effort to memorize things in general. This is one of those things where I can give you another thumbs up. That's go you. You have a great memory. That's awesome. This is a sort of accidental memory, we might say. But there's another type of memorizing that a lot of students who are ear players do. This is where the red flag appears. This is the type of memorization where you look at a note on a sheet and you say, okay, that's an A. Okay, I'm going to remember, put it in my brain forever. It's an A. I'm going to play an A. I'm never going to look at that note again on the sheet. It is in my hand. Then you do the same thing with the next note and so on. And you're memorizing immediately as a way to avoid the irritation you feel when you look at the sheet. The sheet is complicated and messy looking, and it's kind of like a jungle. You don't want to look at the jungle. You want the neat and tidy organization that comes with memorizing it brute force note by note. This is a problem because it's super inefficient. But the biggest problem that this is going to lead to is actually what we're going to talk about in number 5. It's really likely that you're going to practice wrong notes and perform wrong notes when you do this. So the fix to this is to just, maybe don't memorize as you go. Maybe try using the sheet a little bit more. And I know it's not a nice answer. It's not like a really tactical solution. This is where I'm going to divert to the thing is going to be the mantra of the video. Isolate one measure, take a really small segment, kind of like I showed you already, and work through it extremely slowly while looking at the sheet the whole time. Maybe if you need to peek a glance at your fingers to see where they are, but try to keep your eyes tracking on the sheet the way that you read words in a book. And then you can loop that measure again and again and practice that. That's the really efficient way to practice. This is note by note brute memorization. It's not going to be to your benefit in the long run. But let's talk about number 5, because number 5 directly connected to number 4. So number 5 is you play wrong notes when you're performing and you don't even know it. This can actually, incidentally, this can be a problem for sight readers too, but for a totally different reason. And we'll talk about that next week. But the sneak preview of that is when sight readers play wrong notes, it's usually because they can't hear it. They can't, maybe they misread something, but their ear doesn't correct them when there's some kind of problem. Whereas an ear player is much more likely to pick up wrong notes because something sounds wrong. But if they're memorizing as they go in the sort of brute force way, then maybe what they told themselves one day was an A is actually a G, but they've already burned it in their memory. So now they're always going to be playing a G instead of an A. And they're not going to be double checking day after day to see, that's actually an A. I read that wrong. And even if you're a really good sight reader, you're going to read notes wrong sometimes. So people who deeply rely on their memory to kind of avoid sight reading in general is that's something that tends to come up for people. And if you're a sight reader, this isn't so much of an issue in the sense that as already mentioned, if you're on, say, day 3 of reading it, and you're about to play the G, but you're reading your music, you notice, oh, wait a second, have I been playing a G this whole time? That's an A. That's the kind of thing that you're going to be picking up on if you're using your music every day and you're kind of glancing at it as a way to keep track of where you are, that kind of thing. So the fix is the same as everything else that I've mentioned in today's video. Just dedicate yourself to reading your music in the sense of read in very small, manageable, bite-sized pieces, maybe like 3 or 4 minutes per bar. And you just do that bar on a loop, then 3 or 4 minutes for the next bar, you just do that on a loop to make sure you're practicing that eye tracking. Number 6, the sign that you're an ear player is, and I think this is an interesting one, but it's really common, is you can't play slow. Because being able to play slow, and the thing that I've been harping on about a lot in today's video is to encourage you to play slow. People who rely on their ear can't do this so well because they hear a piece in a certain way. And that way is usually up to speed or close to up to speed. So as soon as you slow it something down to half the speed or less, they can't rely on their ear to correct them about things like rhythm. If they hear something and they, oh, I kind of da 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 da, they kind of hear the rhythm of it, they can imitate it on the piano, ba 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 ba. Even if it takes a lot of tries to get the hang of it, they can keep referring back to that rhythm that they've instinctually kind of grasped. But if it's kicked down to half speed, ba ba ba, and it's something like that, all of a sudden they have to count. They actually have to sit with the note and, oh, I don't know if the spacing's right here. And counting is like reading. It's the same thing, right? When you're reading notes, you're not just reading the letter names or the direction of the notes. You're also reading the rhythms. So slowing down is really, really difficult for ear players. One of the big problems of this approach of learning quickly instead of starting slow and building your way up is that people who do this tend to have sloppy performances because they're trying to pretty much right out of the gates play it fast, but they haven't built up the technique for it. And they also might lose some of those rhythmic details because they're guessing at it as opposed to meticulously counting through it. So it ends up with like a maybe less precise sound to it. It also makes it more difficult for you to learn the complexities and nuances of a piece. So ear players are, they struggle a lot more with getting articulation details right, getting the staccato in just the right spot, or lifting the slur in just the right spot. Because those are the kinds of details that are harder to hear, and you're not necessarily going to be carefully reading as you go. The fix for this, it's the preparing for the video. See point number 2, see the demo where you sit down at the piano and I'm looking at the piano, you can't see it, but I can, gesturing to something that's off camera here. I might as well be gesturing to a cat or something, but just slow work, meticulous work where you go as slow as you need to play and read clearly and accurately for a measure. And if your piece is 150 beats per minute, but you have to play 30 beats per minute to actually get the accuracy, do that. That's okay. You have to go slow enough that you can actually think through the counting, think through the notes, and think through the details before you start speeding it up. And finally, the 7th sign that you're an ear player is, and this is a way to tie everything here up with a nice little tidy bow, is that using the sheet messes you up. So you can play something, it sounds really cool, and then the piano teacher plunks the music in front of you and says, start at measure 5, and you can't play it anymore. It turns into this mess and this disaster. This is a sign you're an ear player because you never use the sheet when you practice. You use the sheet as a reference point to something to memorize and then you don't look at it again. Or you only use the sheet to like the absolute maximum that you need to, and you spend the other 90% of the time looking at your hands while you're playing. The reason this is a problem is because of what we've already been talking about. The sheet is really, it's your friend as a musician. It might not feel that way right now. You might feel like enemies right now, but it is your friend because the sheet has all the details. It's like the code of what you're playing. And if you're trying to do it all by ear, you're going to catch a lot of it, but you're not going to catch all of it. There's details of rhythm, there's details of articulation, and etc., like we've talked about. So the problem is that you're going to have these maybe sloppier performances, but you're also not going to be able to do what your piano teacher asks if she says start at measure 7, because you just don't do that. You don't have a good enough relationship with your sheet that you can just, oh yeah, sure, teacher, and then dive right in at that measure. So a good fix for this, and I think this is a really useful tactic, and a lot of people don't do this. So a lot of people will practice by starting at the beginning of their piece and playing to the end. Maybe if we're really lucky, they'll pick it up halfway through, or they know how to kind of start halfway through. But if you never practice starting from measure 7, if you've never done that in your own practice session, you're never going to be able to do that in the studio with your teacher. It's starting from random parts of your music, at least every 4 bars or so, being able to pick it up from those spots is really practical when you're practicing. Because if you mess up in measure 12, you don't have to go all the way back to the beginning. You can, your reading of it is good enough that you can look at measure 11 and start from there, and it's not going to mess you up because you've been using the sheet all along. So anyway, that is the video for today. I hope that if you've related to this strongly, perhaps, that there's a little bit of a therapeutic aspect to it. I want you to remember also that being an ear player is by no means a bad thing. It's a wonderful gift if you have a good enough ear that you can memorize quickly and that you can hear wrong notes and that you know the rhythms of how things are supposed to sound. A lot of people who learn piano don't have these default skills. They have to learn them along the way. So don't take it for granted. Having a good ear is a massive advantage to you as a musician. Go figure, being a musician, it matters to have a good ear. So none of this is to say learning by ear is bad, but I want to encourage ear players out there to try to find a bit more balance, because it's going to handicap you if you lean too heavily on the ear. You want to bring it back down to earth with a lot of sight reading practice and specific measure by measure reading practice where your eyes are always kind of scrolling on the music that you're learning as you play, because it's going to make you a better reader, obviously. But by making you a better reader, it's also going to make you a better player for the reasons that we've discussed. Anyway, thanks for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and stay tuned for next week's video where we pick on sight readers. Bye, everyone.